Good morning. I have a very busy day of painting planned, but before I get to that, I wanted to talk about something that I'm seeing happen right now. And it's something that has happened before, and God help us, it is happening again. And it is going to have a really big effect on girls and women. But if we can be aware of it, it doesn't have to be as devastating as it was before. And what I'm talking about is the reappearance of extremely thin bodies. This is not something that's new. We have been here before. As all of us millennials will remember, the late 90s and early 2000s were awful. We went through many years where the trend was to be scary skinny, and a really similar body type is coming back into popularity again. And the really interesting thing that I notice is that back then and today, it's not being talked about positively. Back before the internet was big, it was all about the tabloid magazines. And oh my gosh, did a tabloid magazine enjoy nothing more than a celebrity who was getting like scary skinny. And nowadays I'm seeing more commentary across the internet about all of these celebrities whose bodies are shrinking down really rapidly. It's not like they're necessarily being praised, but regardless of the commentary, we are seeing these images. Back in the day when I was in my formative years, I was exposed to Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie and the Olsen twins, Lindsay Lohan shrinking down, Nicole Kidman, who was her friend Naomi Watts, and just like a very long list of very skinny women. This specific kind of body type dominated. It was very sharp, very angular, very lean, and impossible to create without purposeful self-starvation. And I learned that through experience. I started dieting when I was 12 years old, and the recommendation at that point for a person my size was to eat between 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day to be skinny like these celebrities. And I did that. God help me, I succeeded. I guess my body was healthy enough and I was young enough at the beginning that I could actually take it. And I lost weight. But no matter what the scale told me, every time I looked in the mirror, I still saw someone who was overweight. I still saw a body that was too big. I remember looking at pictures of myself that were taken at that time. And when I was 13, 14 years old and I saw those pictures, I was horrified by how fat I looked. I remember the wave of shame that would wash through my body and the torment that this caused me. It wasn't just like a mild discomfort, it was genuine torment. And the longer I tried to sustain that level of starvation, the harder it got, the more my body started fighting back with cravings, demanding that I needed more nourishment. During that time too, I remember looking at other celebrities like Jennifer Lopez or Kate Bosworth when she was in Blue Crush and just being so disappointed with how big they were. And I look back now at pictures of myself and images of those celebrities, and my head spins at how I could have ever looked at myself or them and thought that those were overweight bodies. But of course, then I turned to the images of the other celebrities that we were being shown and how emaciated and tiny they were. And it no longer boggles my mind about why I believed that that was normal, because that's what we were all being shown. And that's what we're all starting to see again right now. Even if it's not openly celebrated, what we are seeing is the return of very sharp, angular, extremely lean, depleted, emaciated bodies. And even if it's not celebrated, just seeing the images are normalizing it. They're normalizing it for our society at large, and it's being normalized for our own perceptions. Because even if you don't like what you see, when you keep seeing it regularly, something shifts in your mind. And this isn't because of some like weakness in our brain or weakness in our character. This is not about vanity. This is simply the brain doing exactly what it's designed to do, which is to scan its environment, establish what's normal, and then compare you to it. This is how our brains ensure that we fit in, that we're acceptable, that we can safely belong in the society that we're a part of. And so when our society is regularly showing us images of very thin, emaciated women, that becomes normalized. That becomes a signal of acceptance. And when that is celebrated, when that is glorified, it becomes a symbol of belonging. And belonging is an extremely potent motivator for every human. And maybe you're watching this right now and you're thinking, well, yeah, maybe other people will be affected by this kind of stuff, but not me. To which I say, be careful, because there's this phenomenon called the third person effect, whereby the people who think that they are most impervious to influence are often actually the most influenced by the images, the advertising, the media that they're taking in, because they are so confident that they stop questioning what they're seeing. They stop questioning the messages that are subconsciously absorbing. And this is, I think, how we can so easily get indoctrinated into this personal and collective body dysmorphia, where our perception of our body and bodies in general becomes distorted, where we become preoccupied with the perceived flaws in ourselves when compared to other people. This is how we start looking in the mirror or looking at photographs of ourselves and genuinely seeing something that's not true. But again, your brain is not broken because this is happening. Like, this is just what brains do. They scan their environment and they recalibrate what normal looks like based on what they're seeing, just to make sure that you fit in. But your brain has no idea that what it's seeing is the result of starvation or Ozempic use or plastic surgery or Photoshop or just like straight up lies. It just sees what it sees and evaluates you based on those standards, and always, 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 always prioritizes belonging. And body dysmorphia, like clinically, is often talked about in its most extreme cases. But in my opinion, body dysmorphia does not have to be extreme, and I don't think it's rare at all. I think it exists on a spectrum, and diet culture pushes all of us towards it. And so perhaps you're looking at what's happening and you're thinking, how can I protect myself from this? And I have some good news and bad news. The bad news is that you cannot totally insulate yourself from this unless you just like disappear into the woods without your phone, of course. No Starlink. But what you can do is acknowledge that you will inevitably be affected by this. Your perception of your body, what your brain catalogs as normal, will inevitably move towards the images that we are seeing right now. And so it is natural and normal and expected that when you look in the mirror, what your brain will naturally start focusing on are all of the ways that you and your body do not fit this new standard. Your eyes will be naturally drawn to the parts of your body that do not fit this standard. This is going to happen, but you can choose to do something about it. In my last video, I very briefly mentioned a tool that can be absolutely life-changing in these kinds of situations. It's called RAIN. It stands for Recognize, Allow, Investigate, and Nurture. And it's a really powerful introductory form of parts work. And I'll give you a really quick example of what that can look and sound like in this kind of situation. When I look in the mirror, and my brain starts cataloging all of the ways that my body doesn't fit this new ideal, I start with the R in RAIN. I recognize that thought process. I say, oh, okay, I notice these critical thoughts going through my mind right now. And then I can move on to the A in RAIN. I can allow that to exist exactly as it is, instead of reflexively trying to push those thoughts away or pretend that they're not there or tell myself that it's bad and shameful. No self-respecting woman would think that about her tummy pooch. I allow those critical thoughts to exist. Okay, I hear you. Of course you're coming up. And then I can move on to the I in RAIN. I can investigate those a little bit, asking, where did these come from? Probably the media I've been seeing. I can ask, what is the purpose of these thoughts? And my answer is that These thoughts want me to fit in. They want me to be acceptable. For these parts of me, it's very important that I be seen in a way that supports my belonging. And with that understanding, it is much easier to move to the next step of RAIN, the N of nurture. In that step, I can turn towards the parts of me that have those critical voices and say, oh my gosh, of course you feel this way. Of course this is important to you. You want me to belong. You want me to have safety and friendship. You want me to be loved and appreciated and cherished. Of course that's what you want. And I can just be with those parts for a few moments, maybe take a couple breaths with them and assure them that, this is important to me too. But I also know from my wise adult self that being skinny is not actually the way to get any of those things. Not for real. I can reassure those parts that what's even more effective is being healthy and taking care of myself and living in alignment with my values and treating people well and being a genuinely kind human being. And the size and shape and weight of my body actually has very, very, very little to do with that. And maybe you can tell that by using just that really simple RAIN tool, it could take a moment that could take you down into a spiral of shame and self-punishment and restrictive, abusive behavior and turn it around into a moment that leads to actual, genuine self-connection and a meaningful step in a different direction. As I mentioned in my last video, Tara Brach wrote a book about RAIN. It's one of my favorite books and one of my favorite practices to start my day with. I love it so much that I included it as part of the curriculum of Nourished Sanctuary, where we learn and practice RAIN and a lot of other tools to help us, as all of us collectively, field diet culture so that we can learn new and more effective and more nourishing ways to take care of ourselves through these experiences and heal from the indoctrination and the belief systems and all of the media programming that we've been through for years and years and years that have told us how our bodies are supposed to look, how they're supposed to be shaped, how much we're supposed to or allowed to feed ourselves, etc. So long story short, as we are all starting to see these images of very, very small, skinny bodies, just know that you cannot opt out of having a brain that responds to what it sees, but you can absolutely build an inner life that is stronger than those images. I really, truly wish that for every single one of you. And with that, I have officially run out of time. I need to go take advantage of the daylight and go paint this tiny house. I will see y'all soon. And we're taking a break from painting. So as usual, my lunch is going to be leftovers. I stayed up here in my tiny house by my onesies last night. When I'm by myself, I'm pretty infamous for just eating my one pot Instant Pot wonders. And last night was no different. So I cooked some adzuki beans with oat groats, all just together in the same pot with some herbs and spices last night. So I ate about half last night for dinner, and then for lunch today, I added in some kale, garlic, a little splash of apple cider vinegar, nutritional yeast, a little Irish sea moss for iodine, some sunflower seeds for healthy fats and vitamin E, and the nutritional yeast has a lot of B vitamins too. I'll mention that. And then some dehydrated, what is it called? Saliconia or something. I don't even know how to pronounce that. It's like the sea vegetable plant that grows near the ocean. So it takes up quite a bit of sodium, tastes nice and salty, but has less salt or less sodium than regular salt. I like the way it tastes. I think it's a cool company. So I'm going to eat this. It feels like it's a few pounds of food. I'm not sure if I'll eat it all, even though I'm pretty darn hungry from painting the last several days. I will munch on this while I do some computer work, and then I will see you for dinner. All right, everyone. This is Lily from the past, but I am just anticipating that after painting all day, I'm going to be way too tired to do an outro or probably even talk about my dinner. But I do know what I'm going to have. So I'm going to have a lovely fresh salad with a base of cabbage and carrots and onions, a little garlic, and a dressing of maple syrup, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and salt. I'm also going to have some spiced up black beans, my favorite. And then I'm going to make these little potato pancakes. I don't know if I can call them pancakes because they're baked. Baked potato squares, I think. Made out of cooked russet potatoes, some instant mashed potatoes from Azure, and some diced up onions and garlic chives, a little bit of rosemary, nutritional yeast, salt, some black pepper. Just gonna mash all that up and then bake it into little squares. They are quite tasty. And with that, that will be everything that I ate today. Thank you so much for watching. I am so glad that we got to spend this time together. And as always, until next time, make better choices for yourself. No one will do it for you, and take really, really good care. I will see you next time. Bye.